Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Fresh off the presses, the ink is just drying now. It's time for the latest installment and edition of The Weekly Hero, talking about all things in the world of comic book movies and TV shows and all sorts of good stuff in the week that was. I'm, of course, one of your hosts. My name is John Campea, and joining me here today for this installment is one of the publishers here of The Weekly Hero. We got Robert Meyer Burnett is here. Robert, how you doing?
John, you know, I just showed you a picture of that new omnibus of Injustice, Gods Among Us, man. I'm pretty excited to get that tome.
It's, you know what, hold on a second, because I got to see. First of all, explain what it is you've seen.
Well, it's you know, DC collects their comic series into omnibuses. Usually, DC does a pretty good job of making them really, really big. I recently acquired the 0 Hour Omnibus, the 25th anniversary 0 Hour Omnibus, and they've done a lot of their line or runs into full-on, and we're talking like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. Well, they're doing one for Injustice, one of your favorite comic books.
One of my absolute favorite comic stories in a long time, and I'm just over here right now just trying to see if I can find an image so I can bring it up and show it to you, because that thing is like this thick.
It's huge.
It's huge.
I guess it's the entire 3 years of the comic.
Guys, listen, if you haven't read the Injustice Gods Among Us storyline, it's phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best writing. I remember I was going on a plane trip. I think I was flying out to New York, and I read the first 2 issues of year 1. I'm like, this is great. So I downloaded all the rest of them on Comixology so I could read them on the flight. Got off the flight, went straight to my hotel room and finished off reading it. I could not put it down. It was so good. Anyways, if you guys get a chance to look at that stuff and read it, I highly recommend that you do it, because it is utterly fantastic. And I don't know what this omnibus is going to cost.
I would imagine
that looked like a hefty tome.
I think it's $125.
I was going to guess around in the $100 range, because that was a hefty looking tome.
Yeah, it was the picture was tweeted to us, so it's on our Twitter feed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it was tweeted to us. I don't know exactly. I'm
going to see if I can find that, because if it is, I got to bring up the picture of it.
I mean, you know, I love me some DC omnibuses, the Teen Titans omnibuses, the Invisibles omnibus, the Justice Society of America omnibuses. I don't like them as much as the Absolute editions, but you know what? DC omnibuses and Marvel omnibuses, I'm addicted to them. Not only are they great for home defense because they're so big, you can cram,
you can club an intruder. With it.
Yeah, but they're good. They're good to have. Plus, they're hours of enjoyment.
Hours of enjoyment. Well, speaking of hours of enjoyment, folks, we're here now. So let's get things rolling on this week's installment of The Weekly Hero. We got a few things we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to throw it over and take your guys' live questions. You can just, guys, utilize the super chat feature if you want to get a question on. So let's start with this. This came up the other day, Rob, but contrary to what I thought they were going to do, I love the Ant-Man character in the MCU.
Me too.
Love him. I loved the first movie. Quite enjoy the second one. Not quite as much as the first, but I did enjoy the second one quite a bit.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd as Ant-Man is such a welcome different dimension to the other characters we get in the MCU. He was fabulous. Of course, Michael Pena is incredible in it. It's just a good heist comedy, great sort of feel. I just enjoyed it very, very much. And I said, while I would love for them to do another Ant-Man, they're not. I don't think they're going to. I mean, his story is played out. They wrapped up his story perfectly. Like, the whole purpose of Ant-Man felt like came to a head in Endgame. And I just felt like, there, it's done. And you take into consideration that amongst all the box office results of all the MCU movies, while not at the bottom, the Ant-Man movies are lower on the poll as far as things. And when you consider they got X-Men coming into the universe and all the characters that come with them, when you consider that they've got Fantastic Four coming with all the characters that encompass that title, there's just no need for another Ant-Man, and there's no room for another Ant-Man. So I thought, despite the fact that I would love another Ant-Man, they most likely aren't going to do another Ant-Man, even though I would love it.
It's kind of how I was feeling.
Well, happy birthday and Merry Christmas to all of us, because they announced they're doing Ant-Man 3. Peyton Reed's been signed back up to come back and direct an Ant-Man 3, which, you know, obviously I'm very, very excited about. But Rob, what you and I started to talk about a little bit, I want to take the conversation further. what you and I started talking about when this got announced was, we had speculated that maybe Peyton Reed would be a decent guy to direct a Fantastic Four movie. I mean, he's got the right temperament. He's got the right taste.
And at one point, I think he was. Like, they were going to do it as a period piece.
Yeah, there was some talk about that. And so we speculated that couldn't it be interesting if they were to introduce the Fantastic Four to the MCU universe through an Ant-Man 3. And you pointed out all the reasons why that would make logical sense. Like just kind of recap for us why that even narratively would make kind of sense and fit in.
Well, what's really interesting now is Ant-Man, the cast is literally a family. You've got the Pym characters and the Pym family. Then you've got Paul Rudd's family. You got Scott Lang and his daughter. And I really I've always enjoyed the family aspect of that whole group. And in a way, they always said that the Ant-Man films began as the first one was like a heist movie. They did different genres. And I'm like, wouldn't it be interesting if they did sort of an Ocean's 11 type film, because now the Ant-Man cast has expanded? And what if that their goal somehow was to say liberate the Fantastic Four from the quantum realm, which plays into the comics, and they had to, everybody, even Luis has a role, and everybody has a role. I mean, obviously Ant-Man was an MVP when it came to Endgame.
Yeah.
And if they took it further, and what if the Fantastic Four had existed in the MCU in the 60s, back when they were created, and they were lost? It was something that only S.H.I.E.L.D. knows about, or who knows? I don't know. But I mean, they could figure something out. And the Ant-Man family, and Michelle Pfeiffer knows. I mean, she spent a long time. Maybe she even met them in the quantum realm over the time she was trapped there. Who knows? But what if that's how they bring... So the Fantastic Four are literally out of time. There are people out of time that are brought into the present day. And I swear to God, if they cast John Krasinski as Reed Richards, I'll be the happiest man in the world. And his wife.
Well, I mean, if you can't get John Krasinski without getting Emily Blunt, right?
No. I mean, I think that would be the greatest...
She doesn't look anything like our stereotypical Sue Storm, but who cares? She's a fantastic actress.
Just blonde her hair up a little bit, but he's the perfect... Of all the people he's the It's like when they were going to cast Xavier, and people were like, well, what about Patrick Stewart? Everyone's like, well, of course. If it's not Ed Harris, it's got to be Patrick Stewart, and it indeed was. John Krasinski would make the greatest Reed Richards ever.
He would be good. I think there's a lot of different people you could put in there. A couple of names that come. John Hamm, I think.
No, he'd be a great Reed. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of good ones, but Krasinski's the hot name right now. So, right. I mean, let's not pretend like we wouldn't all be geeking out if we found out Krasinski was playing it. But I think there's a lot of good potential guys there. But it's interesting because understanding that Kevin Feige is a guy who does nothing without a purpose, nothing without a reason.
Right.
And whether it's Fantastic Four or not, I've got a feeling he's not just, he always kills 5 birds with one stone. It feels like, with almost all of his movies, he kills 5 birds with one stone. And I feel like if he's moving ahead with an Ant-Man 3, it ain't just to be Ant-Man 3. I feel like if he's going to continue on with, Scott Lang in a world where he's got all these Disney Plus shows he's got to do, and he's got these X-Men characters coming, and he's got the Fantastic Four coming, and he's got this whole other new area of characters already under the MCU control that he's never developed for. He's got Shang-Chi, he's doing Ms. Marvel, lest we forget about that. He's got She-Hulk coming, all this kind of stuff. If he's going to sit down, Kevin Feige's not just going to sit down and go, oh, just for kicks, let's just do an Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
Let's just do an Ant-Man 3. There's no way that's the case. Now, I'm not saying that is definitive proof that Fantastic Four are going to be introducing that, but I absolutely guarantee you that whatever is in Ant-Man 3, it's also going to serve not only as a great vehicle for Paul Rudd and Michael Pena again and all that kind of stuff, it's also going to serve as a vehicle for either introducing new specific characters or starting or furthering new existing overall plot lines in the MCU as a whole. This movie isn't just going to happen in a vacuum, you know what I mean? So let me ask you this, Rob. Let's say for a second, we haven't talked about this. Let's say for a second that it's not going to be Fantastic Four.
Right.
We are in agreement. He's going to use this movie for some sort of purpose for the overall scope of the MCU. If it's not Fantastic Four, what could you possibly see off the top of your head? And I know I'm putting you on the spot. Could be some other possibilities or avenues that an Ant-Man character or an Ant-Man film would be an ideal vehicle to introduce these new characters or concepts. How do you think they're going to do that?
Well, within the MCU, they've established time travel through the quantum realm.
Right.
I mean, we've talked about one of the great Avengers villains, one of the great MCU villains that they haven't even touched upon yet is Kang. And Kang is a
who
time...
you were absolutely sure was going to show up in Endgame.
I thought for sure he was going to show up in Endgame. I was convinced because he deals with time travel. And now they've established that time travel is... What I love about the MCU is they always establish... They try and make a real world example of something that is in the comic books, but they try and weave it into the fabric of the MCU, which is what I like, because they have to make you believe it as an audience. You've got to believe, okay, if Iron Man can exist in the MCU, how do we make Thor believable? How do we make Asgard believable? And they've done a really good job of weaving all of these concepts together where you buy it. You're like, that's too far-fetched. They've never strained credulity to the point where it breaks. No matter what they put in it, whether you've got Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master, you believe him, even though he could have been walking in from a comedy movie, but you still believe he exists. You know, you believe all this stuff. You believe Ronan the Accuser. They make it work. Well, having a time-traveling villain, that's on the outer edges of credulity now. You know, and I think now that they've shown how the quantum realm works, I mean, after Endgame, why wouldn't Scott Lang, why wouldn't everybody in their little group be studying the quantum realm even more? What are the possibilities? They want to make sure this technology is held close to the vest, because what if everybody could start time traveling? What if somebody else could start time traveling? So it makes sense that they have been researching it. They're going to delve into it much further. And what if they find somebody in there that they are not supposed to find, or somebody they're really worried about finding? Somebody who's using the quantum realm for nefarious purposes, because after Endgame, it gets out. How did you save the world? How did you open the portals? How did you bring back? Somebody's going to figure that out. And then the cat's out of the bag. Pandora's box has been opened.
I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to say if they're not using it for Fantastic Four, I think one of the things they could be doing is closing Pandora's box. I think part of the thing that maybe they could do with Ant-Man 3 is, look, with Infinity War and Endgame, we introduced a lot of ridiculousness. We did. I mean, we just talked the other day about how even the writers of the movie said, yeah, there are a number of situations where like, we don't know how this makes sense, but it's going to look great on screen, so let's do it. I wonder if they won't use an Ant-Man 3 to close that door. Like, what if they go something along the lines of, we are noticing some problems in our world. There is some destabilization, like never before has the quantum realm been used the way we just put it through, what we just put it through. And now it's causing a whatever problem. We need to go within and actually close the quantum realm.
That's actually, you know what? I like that idea, because they were bringing Infinity Stones through the quantum realm.
With the quantum realm, theoretically, you have unlimited numbers of Infinity Stones now. You have infinite numbers of Infinity Stones. You can, oh man, okay, I did something wrong with that one. Okay, let's go back to 5 seconds before the last time we went through and get the time stone again. Now let's go get the power stone again. Now let's go do that. Like, it's just, it creates such an unwieldy thing that this is one of the reasons why I don't, generally speaking, like time travel or multiple dimension stuff, because nothing has consequences and nothing has permanency. And so maybe, I still lean more towards the Fantastic Four idea, but maybe they use Ant-Man to reset their universe, to say, okay, everything is now back to the way it should be. All the stuff that we introduced, all the chaos we brought in with Infinity War and Endgame, as awesome as they were in those movies, we've now brought everything back home, and we've closed it. I don't know. So Kang, although I don't feel like Ant-Man is a movie you introduce Kang in. Like, I think if you're bringing in like a Kang the Conqueror, I feel like that's a Doctor Strange movie to bring in, or a Thor movie, or a Guardians movie. I don't feel like it's an Ant-Man movie to bring him in.
No, I think, you know what, that's a good point. But on the other hand, if you look at the history of Ant-Man and even Hank Pym and all that, there's a long history with the Avengers there.
That's true. Well, right from the beginning.
Right from the beginning. And you go back and you can look into that, and it starts small because the audience, remember, the general audience isn't going to know how dangerous Kang is. You know, he shows up in a different incarnation. He's had different incarnations, and we just don't quite know who he is until the end. I don't know. But it's, and how does our reality without Infinity Stones, how is that going to work? Is it going to unravel? What's going to happen? Although I think they're going to move away from that. But the ramifications can still be there.
Right. Anyway, guys, the underlying theory here, though, is this. If they're making an Ant-Man 3, I don't think they're just making it just to do Ant-Man 3. I think they're going to make it a part of something grander within the stuff. What do you theorize about that? At this point, it's all just baseless fan speculation, but that's what's fun about it. What do you theorize about that? Jump on down and let us know your thoughts. All right. Let's now move on to this next main headline here in the Weekly Hero. And that is this, and that just kind of came up. We talked about it earlier today on the John Campea Show. We'd be remiss not to talk about it again here today. The Batman movies, they've now announced, it's come out in some exclusive reports, is that 2 new names are now in talks to join the film. Now remember, in talks means the studios decided these are the people we want, and those people decided we want to be in this movie, and now they're just trying to work out the details to make sure they can get 90% of the time. That means they sign on. Every once in a while, we get a Jonah Hill situation or a Joaquin Phoenix on Doctor Strange situation where eventually they walk. But for the most part, and I think we can assume at this point, we're about to see Andy Serkis and Colin Farrell join this Batman movie, which is ridiculously exciting to me. It already adds on to this incredible stable of unbelievable world-class talent that they have been assembling for this. Obviously starting with Robert Pattinson, who's becoming one of the, if not the most sought-after actor by most directors today who want to work with him. Then you got Paul Dano, who, I swear to God, if it wasn't for the fact that he was acting with the greatest actor of all time in the greatest performance of his life, I think Paul Dano would be a name we'd be talking about a lot more, because his performance in There Will Be Blood was nothing short of stupid good.
Yep.
Stupid good. Which just made Daniel Day-Lewis's performance look even better. Zoe Kravitz, who has been performing in a television show with Big Little Lies amongst the highest of the econ of goddesses of screen in Meryl Streep, Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, Laura Dern, and she is one of the leads with them and completely walking amongst gods, and she looks like she totally fits in with them. Unbelievable. And now we add on top of that, add on top of this ridiculous list of growing talent, an Andy Serkis and a Colin Farrell. Rob, one of the things that I said earlier this morning, and you know how much I like Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is real good. And you look at these names, you've got a big room of names now, and you look at Andy Serkis and go, that might be the least talented guy of the bunch. What? Like, when you can go into a movie and say, oh, Andy Serkis is in that movie, and guess what? He might be even the least talented of the people. It's like, what? Get out of here. Like, who's in this movie? This is remarkable, Rob. And one of the things that I pointed to, that the reason it makes me so excited is because the names are great. But it excites me because it tells me what the mindset of the filmmakers is. Like, if you don't go for just the big, splashy, fancy names and the big, shiny A-list names, but rather you go for some of the most undisputed talent in the business today, regardless of where they have splashy names, what that makes me think is that when you're developing your movie, you're not going for the big, just splashy fan service, which Endgame, fan service can be awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's not inherently a bad thing. Sometimes it's a very, very good thing. But the actors they're getting is telling me that when they're approaching the story, they're probably not looking for what's the big, shiny set piece that we can do. What's the big, splashy, fan servicey thing to do? They're probably looking at what's the best story. How can we really give this depth and meaning? Because if that's what they're looking for in their actors, that leads me to believe that's what they're going to be bringing philosophy-wise to their story as well. And if you weren't already excited about an upcoming Matt Reeves Batman film, that should push you over the edge. That should push you over the edge. Rob, I haven't had a chance to ask you, though. I mean, obviously, you love these names that we've been adding here with the addition of a Colin Farrell and an Andy Serkis, but do you look at who they're cast? Do you believe, as a filmmaker yourself, that you can glean some knowledge of the mindset and the philosophy of the filmmakers when you look at who it is they're casting in the roles? And if so, what do you see as you're looking at this?
Well, I do, because I think what they're doing is they're casting a lot of great actors. There's no one that necessarily overshadows anyone else.
Yeah, it's not like also you got a Johnny Depp in there or something like that.
What they're doing is they're putting together an amazing ensemble, which means that, look, I love ensemble casts, but they're putting together a souffle. And for a Batman film, that souffle is important because, you know, if you put a Jack Nicholson in, like Tim Burton did, you know that Jack Nicholson overshadows everybody in the room. But all of these actors each bring something really unique to the roles, and it leads me to believe that we are going to get something really special here. I mean, Matt Reeves has obviously worked with Andy Serkis. We've seen Andy Serkis do all these great indelible characters, whether it's Gollum or whether it's Caesar, as somebody that we know from motion capture. But Andy Serkis also had a character actor career before that. I loved him in this movie 24-Hour Party People, where he played the engineer that recorded Joy Division's records. If you love 24-Hour Party People as I do, you know, we saw him as Ulysses Claw in the MCU. But here,
how good was he in that?
Yeah, yes, and I think that Matt Reeves, having worked with him, it brought him. He's playing Alfred Pennyworth because he's going to be a different kind of Alfred Pennyworth. Maybe not the badass that Jeremy Irons was, but somebody more along the lines of what we might have seen in Batman the Animated Series. There's a reason why this is happening. I think it's going to be a badder ass one than Jeremy Irons was. I think this is going to be an Alfred that's got a little bit of a pass. I think it's going to be the Alfred that could actually have been part of Bruce's training. It could be, or maybe the Pennyworth Alfred, you know, Mr. Secret Agent.
By the way, I love that show.
Anyway. I mean, I think it's just, they know. Here's also, it tells me something else. The script is really good. The script is really good because these actors are signing on. Obviously, Jonah Hill wanted money. And whatever happened between them, Jonah Hill said, nope, you're not going to meet my quote. And I understand, but these actors they all want to be there, and they're being handpicked, and there's a reason for it. And I think all of these actors have made a decision. I think the script is probably great, and it tells me that we should be excited for this movie.
You know, speaking of the Jonah Hill situation, I heard a little something. And I can't speak to the veracity of this. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I did hear it from an interesting source that one of the reasons, because of course Jonah Hill was in talks for this. The studio decided we want Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill said, yes, I want to be in this movie. And so then they start getting down to brass tacks, figure it out. What I heard, and again, I can't speak to the veracity. This may be completely false, but it's interesting. I heard that Hill was looking for a Robert Downey Jr. kind of deal with not only a ridiculously big paycheck, but a significant amount of points in the film. That he sort of saw himself. And listen, in Jonah Hill's defense, we are talking about a two-time Academy Award nominated actor. It still feels weird to say that. Wait, the Goldfish Boots boy from 40-Year-Old Virgin is a two-time Academy nominated, but he is. I mean, so in his defense, when you look at the list of actors they started putting together, you know, you could, if you're Jonah Hill's representation, you can make a very legitimate argument. Listen, the MVP of this cast is going to be my client. He's going to be your Robert Downey Jr. in this thing, so we want a Robert. So what I had heard was he was looking for something similar, not quite as high, but something similar to the deal Robert Downey Jr. had, and I don't think DC and Warner Brothers was going to budge on that or go for that whatsoever.
Plus, with their track record, they also have to hedge their bets. As good as this movie can be, as good as the script might be, it still is the beginning of a new Bat franchise with somebody new playing Batman, and who knows how it's going to turn out. So you can't bet the farm. You gotta be at least a little bit and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And let them look, if they had already encumbered the movie with huge paychecks and all that, that's not good. That's not good filmmaking. It's already expensive enough, but let's as I always say, let's not put our universe before our story and characters. They established this movie with all these characters as being great, then they can start building on that, but let this movie be great first.
And it looks like they've got the right vision. It feels like they've got the right philosophy. It feels like they're putting in the right pieces. And look, of course, this movie could still end up being an unmitigated disaster, and it could completely suck. Absolutely it can. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying, at this point, the things that could go really right or could go really wrong at this point all seem to be going really hella right. Like, really right. And that's something to get excited about. So question here is, guys, with the new casting, not just what do we think about Colin Farrell and Andy Serkis, we discussed that at length earlier today, but how does this make you feel about the movie as a whole? What do you think this indicates about the direction they're going and how they're approaching it? To me, I think it tells us a lot. Maybe you feel differently. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. Let's move on to one final headline here in this issue of The Weekly Hero before we move on to your live questions. And that's this, Rob. A very, very interesting piece of news, kind of very subtly and quietly floated in and then kind of floated out and hasn't been talked about a lot since.
Uh-oh.
But that was the news when they made the big announcement about the stuff you're going to start seeing on HBO Max when it launches. And HBO Max is already a player with a lot of the stuff that they announced, not the least of which was, of course, that they nabbed the streaming rights to South Park, which I think is a much bigger deal than people are willing to admit right now. But anyway, in the midst of all that announcement, they announced 2 comic book properties. One, kind of an anthology series, which is very interesting in and of its own. But I want to focus on this other thing. They talked about Greg Berlanti, the architect of the DC CW world, is going to be doing and bringing a Green Lantern series to HBO Max. This is intriguing on many levels. Mm-hmm. On number one, there is the obvious thing about what's this show going to be? How's this show going to fit in with either the movie universe, which I doubt that's going to mix with their movie universe, but will it have anything to do with the CW universe? I also doubt that. But the other question that raises up to me is, seeing how Warner Brothers has operated lately with, we can have characters in both movies and TV, and then all of a sudden, no, we can't. We got Deathstroke in the movies. Can't have Deathstroke in the TV show anymore, and all this kind of nonsense. Let me ask you, what do you think it means for Warner Brother movies, for the DCEU on the big screen? Because there have been chat and talking for a while about a Green Lantern movie. They've talked about a Green Lantern movie. Do you think that them doing a Green Lantern series on HBO Max is just, that's one, and they're going to do another iteration on the big screen? Or do you think one is kind of a harbinger to us that the big screen one might be dead? How do you see that?
Well, first of all, I would imagine there is not going to be a big screen Green Lantern movie if they're going to do this series for HBO Max. That would be my first impression. And I would hope that the CW Berlanti shows have a certain tone.
Yeah.
You know, they're more lighthearted. They're less serious. They're more family friendly.
They're more fun.
They're more fun. That's exactly right. They're not as portentous, maybe. But I hope Green Lantern, to me, it has elements of Star Trek. It has elements of the Legion of Superheroes, even. But the Green Lantern, the cosmic end of the DC universe has always been something I've loved. And with this anthology series and with the DC, the idea of doing the whole Green Lantern Corps, I would like to see a more adult-oriented, something that's a little maybe less fun and a little bit more gritty, because we're in space. You know, you have the Guardians, you've got all the different cores if they go with all the different colors of the rings, and there's all kinds of characters, cosmic characters like the Omega Men. I would love to see them touch on, which came out of the Titans. But you know, I just think it's really exciting. And like, I was a big fan of Jeff Johns, his run on Green Lantern. He gave us a lot of things like the Sinestro Corps War. He gave us Blackest Night. I mean, there's so many great stories, especially over the last 30 years in Green Lantern comics, that could really be epic and cosmic and maybe more, I mean, I hate to say it because everyone says things like this now, but more of a Game of Thrones feeling where it could have a much more sprawling mythology throughout the cosmos and different factions and bringing in different people.
But can you do that on a TV show budget?
Well, you know,
even with some shows having impressive budgets, but can you do something like that really?
I don't know if it's done well, and if you got a $10,000 or $10 million budget, which is a lot more than the CW show. Are they going to give
Green Lantern though a $10 million an episode budget?
I don't know.
I can't see.
Look,
that.
if it's a CW budget show, it's going to be a different thing.
Well, yeah, then you're talking about $100,000 an episode.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see an epic spacefaring, sprawling saga. You know, that's what I would like to see. And Jeff Johns' whole run on Green Lantern is not a bad place to start. There's a lot of other people that have written great Green Lantern runs, but there was a long time there where I thought Green Lantern comics were not to be missed, and I would love to see that brought into series form.
I'll tell you what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to make this Mork and Mindy. And what do I mean by Mork and Mindy? Here's what I mean by Mork and Mindy. Shazbot. Nanu. So what are they going to do? I think this is mostly going to be terrestrial based. I think this show is going to be 99, maybe not 99, but 90% Earth based. And then what would happen every episode of Mork and Mindy? Going back when I was a little kid watching the reruns. Mork at the end would have a transmutation telecommunication with Orson. Right? Mork calling Orson. Come in, Orson. And then he would teleport out here. So the way I see it...
You're shattering my dreams, John.
I mean, maybe you don't think it makes sense, but what I suspect they're going to do, because I don't think they're going to make this a $15 million an episode series, is I think it's going to be I think it'll be a healthy budget.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be mostly Earth-based. And then, you know, you will see the odd scene or two each episode where he goes into space or goes to speak with not the Watchers, the
Guardians.
The Guardians, thank you.
Oa.
Why did I freeze on Guardians?
There's so many people to know.
But I think that's going to be small, contained. You know, you and I watched the latest episode of Flash, right?
Clearly a bottle show or whatever. I mean,
by the way, yeah, this new episode was clearly a filler episode. Anyway, and you've got a character like Elongated Man, right? Well, what did they do? They give us one shot, one scene of him coming through the rocks. It's like, woo! But I think that's the first time I've seen him use his power in like 3 episodes, right? And I think that's what the galactic level stuff of a Green Lantern show they're going to do. And by the way, I don't think that means it can't be awesome.
I know.
They could still be awesome. A lot of great Green Lantern stories are terrestrial based. But I just don't see them doing, you know, when the precedence they have is CW shows. I don't know that Warner Brothers and their overlords at AT&T are going to go like, yeah, we'll invest $90 million in one season of Green Lantern.
Yeah, no,
I just don't know that they're going to do that.
You know, now that I listen to you say this, you're probably right. I have delusions of grandeur. And I remember, I mean, when I was a kid, well, when I was younger, there was a 70s Green Lantern run that I think it was Denny O'Neil wrote it and Neil Adams drew it. And Green Lantern and Green Arrow, there was a Green Lantern, Green Arrow comic.
That's where the whole thing of them being best friends came from.
Yeah, and they teamed up, and there was like, they dealt with even drug use. Speedy, there's a great cover where they discover that Speedy's a heroin addict. I mean, this wasn't a DC comic in the 70s, but they were dealing with issues of the day, and Green Lantern and Green Arrow would travel across the land. I don't want him to do that. I don't want it to be that terrestrial.
And
like,
by
let's
the way,
fight drug use.
Little reference here.
He's a meth user now.
In this season of Arrow goes to one of the alternate Earths where his sister, who is Speedy, what happened to her? She died of a drug overdose. So a little bit of tie in there to the
Yeah.
to the old thing. And by the way, in one of the, I thought a lot of people hate it, but in the parallax stuff in the comic books back in the, I believe it was 80s, early 90s, and it turns out, Hal Jordan became Parallax, and to try to right the wrongs of his city being destroyed and all the people he loved dying, he becomes Parallax, and all the Justice League is trying to fight him.
Tried to extinguish the sun.
And who was it that ultimately took him out? It wasn't Superman. It wasn't Captain Marvel or Shazam, as we call him now. It wasn't Wonder Woman. It wasn't Martian Manhunter. It was his best friend. It was Green Arrow. Green Arrow is the one who took him out, finally at the end. So, I mean, there's a lot of very fun things they could do, I think, even if they do keep it terrestrial-based. But, I'm not expecting a $10 to $15 million an episode kind of budget. I think it'll be better than CW. I think it'll probably be significantly better than CW. I don't think we're talking about Amazon's Lord of the Rings budgets or Game of Thrones budget.
But it'd be cool if it were.
Oh, it could be. I think, but you do acknowledge, all right? Like if you're in the boardrooms of Warner Brothers and AT&T, you're like, we have no precedent that suggests to us that this is a good investment, right? The last Green Lantern movie was a colossal failure for us. Our DCEU as a whole hasn't gone the way we had hoped, even though some people like it very much like me. Our CW stuff is great on a certain scale, but we've got nothing as far as practical evidence to present to the purse holders in the company that, yeah, we'll make, this will be totally worth $80 million.
It's going to be our Mandalorian.
Yeah, it'll be a tough sell. It's a tough sell, but I don't know, guys. Hey, question is, what do you think they're going to do about this? And what do you think is the overall meaning? Do you agree with Rob that this probably means we're not going to get any Green Lantern movie? I think Rob is 100% right, but maybe not. They could still theoretically do a total. Hey, you could do a Hal Jordan Green Lantern movie and have a Kyle Rayner or Guy Gardner or Jon Stewart or whoever you want to go with Green Lantern show. I mean, you could do that. I don't think they will. I think they're going to go with just one or the other. But anyway, what do you guys think about that? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
By the way, you know who could play Guy Gardner?
Hold on a second. Let me think about that for a second. Carrot Top.
John Cena. I'm telling you, he's goofy enough and his comedy chops. But Guy Gardner's he can be goofy.
He could be a secondary character. See, if he was playing Guy Gardner in a Hal Jordan Green Lantern show, I could see.
Yeah, I wouldn't make him the lead.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, as Guy Gardner, even in a show, have him guest star, come in occasionally.
Okay, that I could. Yes, I think John Cena could actually shine in a situation like that. Just not a Green Lantern show where Guy Gardner's a Green Lantern starring John Cena. I couldn't see that working.
No. Guy Gardner should always be a secondary character.
By the way, I hope all of you have bought your advance tickets for John Cena's firefighter movie, because that looks like it's going to be the Citizen Kane of our time. You and I just went to lunch earlier today down in downtown Burbank, and they have giant what are the banners everywhere.
For every character in the movie.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the damn... What is the name of the damn movie? John Cena, Squirt on My Fire. I can't even remember the name of the movie.
John Cena's Dumpster Fire.
John Cena's Dumpster Fire.
We should look, it's a Nickelodeon release through Paramount, so you know it's going to burn up the box office charts.
It's going to be big. I hope you all bought your tickets already.
John Leguizamo's in it.
The question I have is how did Fandango not crash? Like when the tickets for that went on sale.
I don't know, man, because I was going to buy out a whole row for me and my friends.
That movie looks so bad. Okay, anyway. Now, listen, guys, let's spend the rest of our time now taking your live questions. A few of you have already been jumping in there and doing that, so let's not waste any time.
But I have something to show you, John.
Oh, that's right.
We've forgotten to do this.
You know why? Because it's out of my eye line, so I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
We got a little something that we need to talk about. Rob. You know, Rob, for those of you who may not know, Rob enjoys the 1/6 scale figures. I didn't know if you knew that. He likes the collectibles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he's got a little something that he wants to show us here today. Rob, what have you brought in to share with us today?
First of all, I have to say, normally I don't like to buy 6-scale video game figures. But Hot Toys has manufactured, from the Spider-Man video game, even though they've appeared in the comics too, figures. And this figure, when I saw this, I had to buy this. This is the Scarlet Spider figure. Now, this is one of the greatest Hot Toys figures. He comes with so many accessories, camera. This is the very first figure I've ever bought that actually, let me open this up. It comes.
This is the part that it killed me.
It comes with pizza.
Comes with a pizza, but Rob, not just a pizza box. What else about that pizza box?
It's Hot Toys is so great that they even put grease on the bottom of the pizza box.
That's awesome.
Now this figure comes with a donut. It comes with a cup of coffee. It comes with a cell phone, a smartphone, and it comes with many different webs. I mean, if you can see. Just let me put this down. How detailed? Let me move out of the. Look at how detailed this figure is. I mean, the costume, the sculpting. This figure is amazing, and I'm very happy. I just got this. This is my latest Hot Toys figure. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Even though it's Hot Toys, it is Sideshow exclusive in North America, and boy, do I love this figure. It's really great. But the downside to this figure is now I want to buy all of the Hot Toys Spider-Man video game figures, which includes Venom Pool. How can you not want that? And they've got the main suit, the enhanced suit, and it's just great. Between the Spider-Man Far From Home figures, it's just a spider year for Hot Toys.
How many figures do they have from the Spider-Man video game?
I think so far there's Venom Pool, which is one. There's that's one. There's the enhanced suit, the main game suit. They've made that suit.
See, that would look pretty cool too.
And I think there's one more. I think so far there's 4, but I've seen that they're going to make even more because these things sell out. You can only get this now. It's a waitlisted figure. You can probably get it from somebody else, but it'll probably cost more.
Not bad for a character who isn't cool enough that he needs Iron Man armor to be cool in the movies, right?
And what's so great is, I mean, this figure is what Hot Toys does really, really well.
It looks fantastic.
It's a fantastic figure. All of the detail and the sculpting, and what Hot Toys does is they send you various incarnations of webbing, so you can the posability of the figure is amazing. It's just kudos to Hot Toys and kudos for Sideshow making this an exclusive. It's very, very exciting. There's so many great Hot Toys coming out. You can even pre-order a Mandalorian, but it doesn't come out for literally until November 2020, which is a bummer.
It's crazy. The second season might be out by then.
I wonder. Now I'm thinking about my life being how many Hot Toys will I have on pre-order when I finally leave this mortal coil? When I shuffle off this plane, I mean, they're going to still charge my cards over the years. I'm sure 50 years after I'm gone, Hot Toys will still figure out a way to charge me for a figure I pre-ordered.
All right, guys. These toys are amazing. All right. Now with that down, I can't believe I almost forgot about that. Let's go on and take your guys' live questions. And we're going to get things started off here with Luke1234, who writes, Rob, what is the most disappointing comic you've ever read? For me, it was Superman versus Predator. They don't even fight. Wait a minute. There was a Superman versus Predator comic and they don't even have them fight?
I did not read that comic.
How did people not burn things in the streets with that? That sounds ridiculous.
That's a really good question. The most disappointing comic. I'll tell you what was really disappointing to me. I don't know if it's the most disappointing comic, but one of my favorite comics of all time is Howard Chaykin's American Flag because I loved his artwork. Now, even writers like Alan Moore worked on the comic after he left, and other very accomplished writers and artists worked on American Flag. But after Howard Chaykin left American Flag as the artist, I was crushed. I bought them, I own them, but to this day, 35 years plus later, I've never read an American Flag comic that Howard Chaykin was not involved with the art or writing.
Right. Okay, let's move on here.
I own them, though.
Brandon, where are we at here? Brandon Blake writes, where did we go? Oh, there we are. Brandon Blake writes, will they ever fix the Hulk back in the MCU? You know, I think that got asked the other day as well. That came up the other day as well, maybe when I did it in a companion video. But look, I love Infinity War and Endgame. Love them. But that, just like most movies I love, that doesn't mean I love every single detail about it. And one of the things that really did drive me crazy about the Russo brothers' films in general was the way they couldn't even bother to pretend to hide their absolute disdain for the Hulk and the Hulk character. I'm pretty positive some kid dressed in a Hulk Halloween costume, bullied them as children, and took their Halloween candy. Because despite the fact that he set up like the ultimate nuclear arsenal in the first couple of, it's particularly the first Avengers film, they wrote him off as a complete afterthought, and then they totally neutered him with this whole professor. Full marks for doing something different. Marks for doing something different. But I thought they ultimately just completely neutered and ruined Hulk with what they did with Professor Hulk and all that kind of stuff. Still love the movie as a whole. Every movie I love has elements I don't like. That just happened to be the elements there. I don't know if they're ever going to fix him. I don't know. By the way, I'm not even 100% sure we're going to see him in the movies again. He might pop up in She-Hulk, but I got a feeling they will not. Rob, do you ever think they're going to fix Hulk?
That's a really good question, John. I mean, you know what? I think they kind of have to. Because remember, one of my favorite things in the MCU is Gladiator Hulk. When he came out, decked out in gladiator armor. Yeah, I love all that. And I everybody wants to see Hulk wreck shop again. Everyone wants to see Hulk brutalize some cummers and like aliens or whatever. I want to see Hulk smash Loki in the ground again. Who didn't love that? And I think they can't. Professor Hulk's fine, but we need to see our beloved Hulk come back and really kick some ass.
Listen, look. The movies are the movies. The comics are comics. I don't need them to be completely accurate to each other. But, you know, spirit-wise, you know, Hulk in the comics, so powerful that the Illuminati had to get together and go, what do we do about Hulk? You got Namor and Doctor Strange and Reed Richards and Xavier all getting together and say, we got to figure out what to do about Hulk because it's completely uncontrollable. And they put him on a spaceship and shot him into deep space because they like Bruce, but he's just too powerful. We don't know what to do with him. What do they do with him in Infinity War and Endgame? Well, first, he got in a couple of shots on Thanos, but they had him job to Thanos, which, hey, that's kind of okay. It is Thanos. It's not like they made him job to Hawkeye or something. And then that was it. That was it. The opening scene of Infinity War, quick 30-second action scene, and then never to see him do anything useful again for the next couple of movies. And this is the guy the Illuminati realized this is the ultimate threat in the galaxy. And it was frustrating to me. So anyway, sorry, we spent too much time on that. Let's move on here. Next up is why that is completely the wrong screen coming up. Let's try that.
They look good.
This is really wrong. I got to figure out why that's happening. Anyway, let's see here. Luke1234 writes, Rob, what is your favorite comic/graphic novel that you've read? Mine is Patience by Daniel Close.
Yeah.
Which Schnepp always talked up. Thank you, and Schnepp R.I.P.
Patience is a fantastic graphic novel. Schnepp and I were both talking that up. I mean, it's incredible. And if you want a really good time travel story, John, Patience is a really interesting time travel story. I think my favorite graphic novel that I ever read is probably Watchmen. I mean, I know it seems cliche now, but it's almost 35 years old. And at the time when I was reading it, it was so groundbreaking, and I couldn't believe I was reading a comic that it was a mystery. It was a science fiction story. It was a superhero story, and it had all kinds of politics and political commentary and social commentary. I was so enthralled by it, and I was reading it issue after issue. So I was buying it, when the issues came out, and a monthly comic had never made me so interested. I mean, it was literally like crack on comic book pages. I was so like, give me more of this. I was so. It was amazing, and I think, but that I know it seems cliche now, but it really probably was. But it existed as a comic book first, and then it was collected into a graphic novel. Whereas Patience was written as a whole. It was as a whole piece. It was written as a graphic novel. So I don't know if maybe I'm cheating.
For me, it is it's not just one. But it's a overall storyline, and you've heard me say it before, but it's Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse, I've always found to be the most fascinating. So I love that. But then again, there's always Injustice Gods Among Us Year One. All right. Murray Reich writes, the whole Oliver family thing is so annoying. Dude, you're preaching to the choir, brother. You are preaching to the choir. It's so annoying. I don't know why, but I found Barry Allen's futuristic daughter, Nora, character more compelling than these twits. Oh, I agree. I quite like the Nora character. I remember she first showed up in Crisis on Earth X, when she shows up at the wedding and they bump into her and he's like, what's with that girl? And then later you find out, of course, that's her daughter who's come back in time to meet her dad and try to save him from whatever ultimate future he had. I actually quite like that character. Not my favorite character on Flash, but way better than Oliver's idiot kids. Although I do got to say, I have not yet seen the newest episode. I had a choice this afternoon before we started the show to watch either the new Flash or the new Arrow, and I leaned towards the new Arrow. That was a mistake because this week's episode of Flash was terrible. Even though I love seeing Danny Trejo. Seeing Danny Trejo show up in anything is always great, but that was what a dumpster fire of an episode that was. Okay, let's move on here. Next up is Tommy Martinson, who writes, not a plot hole that Cap could summon lightning with Mjolnir. Whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. See, but you're getting into semantics. You're getting into semantics because when the writers of the movies themselves say this was a plot hole, I'm going to go with them that was a plot hole. Like, we can play with semantics to try to figure out a way that it doesn't. And believe me, that same thought, the utterance of Odin when he's sending Thor down to Earth in the first Thor, that totally went through my head too. But at that point, we're playing a little game of semantics. If the writers of the film say that was a plot hole, then it was a plot hole. Ryan Lohner writes, after one episode, William has a better understanding of time travel than Barry ever had. Again, I can't comment because I have not seen this week's episode. So I can't speak to it, and there you go. Patrick Conway writes, you see Mackie and Stan announced F7WS? You probably meant Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's probably what you meant.
Yeah, yes, I did see that.
The ampersand symbol is part of the 7 key on a keyboard, so he probably just forgot to hit the shift button there. No, I didn't see that. For whatever reason, I already thought it was in production. But did you see the announcement?
Yeah, I did see the announcement. It's pretty cool. I can't wait to see the show. Does that mean Loki wrapped a long time ago?
No, Loki hasn't started shooting yet.
Really? Because they had. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they haven't started. They said they were gonna. I think they said they're gonna start shooting that in 2020.
Oh.
So, or I could be thinking of another show, but I'm pretty sure that's what they talked about at D23. Anyway, Ash M writes, thoughts on Batwoman? It's okay so far. I like Alice. I'm only one episode in on Batwoman.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what they're doing with the Batman mythology, and I don't have hatred for it, but I'm interested to see where they're going to go with it. It's interesting. I mean, I'll watch it.
Hey, look, I didn't hate the first episode.
I didn't either.
I expected to hate it because the trailers are terrible. But the first episode wasn't terrible. Here's the problem. Not terrible doesn't highly motivate me to check out the new episode. So like when I'm sitting there and I finally sit down, I've got like 45 minutes to myself before the next thing I got to do. And I have an option to either, hey, I can go on YouTube and watch the latest review of the best new accessories for the iPad Pro. Or I can watch Batwoman. Your last episode needs to be better than not terrible to highly motivate me. I still plan on watching a few more episodes of Batwoman. But I will say, I've not hated it in the limited amount that I've seen so far. Not terrible. So that's better than terrible. All right, Murray Reich writes, I feel like the only reason why I still watch Batwoman is that I'm waiting to see if Batman shows up. Kind of like Superman and Supergirl. Hashtag time to give up. I don't know. Listen, here's the thing. After the way these knuckleheads at CW, who have done some very good stuff, I'm overgeneralizing, but the way these knuckleheads handled Superman, I don't want Batman to show up in that show. Listen, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
What if Batman was a jobber to Batwoman?
No, that's exactly what listen, I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do. There are writers of CW now just dying to have Batman just so they can put Batwoman over by having her beat Batman in a fight. I'm telling you, that's what they're wanting to do. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. You can job any character you want to put over another character, but you do not job Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. These are untouchable. And if you ever do, fuck you. You do not job Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. They are off fucking limits. And I still get upset when I see what they did to the granddaddy of all comic book superhero characters, Superman, and the way they just shit in his mouth on Supergirl.
But he is getting his own show now, John.
Oh, yeah, so he can lose to everybody else. Whatever. Because they did that, I don't want them to bring Wonder Woman in, and I don't want them to bring Batman in, because I just now have this very justified fear, because I got precedents here, that they're just going to bring them in to say, look how cool our character is, because our character beat up Batman. Now you have to like our character. Fuck you. And those are the three you should not touch, and they've already shown that they have no qualms about touching them and repeatedly humiliating Superman, that I do not want Batman to show up in that show. Because I just have no faith whatsoever that they would treat him with the proper respect. None. Zero. Anyway, how do I really feel?
Yeah, I was going to say, John, I really don't understand.
Now, tell us what are you really thinking about that? Anyway, Suthius writes, let's see here. Murray Reich writes, no, that was Murray. Suthius writes, hey guys, I don't mind Will. Mia is a big brat though. Yeah, William isn't. No, William is still an idiot kid. But if I had to say there was one who was a bigger idiot than the other one, I would say, yeah, Mia is the bigger idiot than Will. I can take the Will character a little bit more than Mia. Mia is really an idiot kid. I just don't like either of them at all. Not at all. I guess Willem a little bit more. A little bit more. I find him a little bit more of an interesting character as well. But anyway, let's see. Haskell 420 says, I sent both of you the link to Joe Rogan's podcast from yesterday's with visual effects guru Rick Baker. Awesome and revealing interview. I know you're excited about seeing that.
I watched it.
Oh, you did see it?
I watched it yesterday.
Oh, for whatever reason, I thought when we spoke about it this morning, I thought you were just excited about seeing it.
No, I watched it yesterday.
And it's good?
It's really good. He's a very sweet guy. And you know, he was the man who did the transformation in American Werewolf. So, yeah. And he's got, for those of you who don't know, Rick Baker has a new 2-volume set. It's a book set. It's a beautiful slipcase book. It's like $250 of his entire makeup effects career. And I want to get it.
All right. Next up. We got Evelyn who writes, Luis alone is a reason for Ant-Man 3. Can't wait. Listen, I've said it before. I can watch maybe not a 2-hour, but a complete 90-minute movie of Luis sitting down telling stories. You make that movie, I'm there. I'm buying my tickets, Evelyn. All right, Cinema Reviews writes, any theories about Justice 3's storyline? Nope. None theories. Suthius writes, I remember watching one of Phase 2 movies, and after the trailer for Ant-Man ended, one person blurted out, finally, I thought the same, love him. Oh, like when they were first bringing Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is, it wasn't just, oh yeah, we should get an Ant-Man. Ant-Man was the first MCU character we were really talking about. I mean, they had brought on Edgar Wright, I believe in 1978 is when they brought on Edgar Wright. At least that's what it feels like. It was like in it was in, what was the early 2000s?
Yeah.
That it was announced that Edgar Wright was going to be doing Ant-Man. That's like a decade ago. This is like a decade ago.
And he left over creative differences, and that was before the MCU even existed, really.
Right, well, see, and that's why it was understandable. See, I totally understood why Edgar left, and I understood why Marvel didn't budge. Because the movie they originally agreed to make, as the MCU started to develop and had a few more movies and started taking on its own tone, Kevin Feige was in a position where he went, you know what? This Ant-Man movie that we agreed to make years ago doesn't fit in our MCU anymore. We're going to need changes. And Edgar Wright, who totally was justified in saying, but this is the movie I agreed to make. And so I totally understood why Edgar didn't want to budge. And I totally understood why Kevin Feige was like, we got to do what's best for the overall property, not just for one of the titles. And they worked it out amicably. And actually, Edgar Wright's name is plastered all over the credits for Ant-Man, both as a producer and an original story. And they took much of the story points that he came up with for it. But yeah, it was so it wasn't just, oh, finally we're getting an Ant-Man movie. It's finally we're getting Ant-Man because we've been talking about this Ant-Man movie forever.
Yeah.
And actually, one of my favorite things, the first time I ever got a scoop wrong, and I've only ever broken like 5 or 6 scoops in my entire career because I don't care about scoops. I don't pursue scoops or whatever. But the first one I ever did was a total bust because I had heard from a person that I believed very much at the time was very, very credible. Adrien Brody. I had heard Adrien Brody was cast as Ant-Man. And I got on my website, which at the time was the movie blog. I said, guys, listen, I talked to this one guy, I'm totally buying into it. This is like a decade ago. And I learned a lot from this experience. I'm like, Adrien Brody's going to be your new Ant-Man. And I thought that for about 48 hours until I got a message from Edgar Wright saying, no, he's not. And that was that. Now I had Edgar on my Masters of the Web panel a while after that, which he reminded me about that embarrassing humiliation of mine. But anyway, we had been waiting for a very, very long time by the time it finally came, and a lot of drama. There was a lot of drama as we were waiting for it. All right, let's see here. Warrington Trainspotter 2778 writes, something got thinking about Endgame. If Captain America put back the Soul Stone, would that mean Black Widow is alive again? Look, that is one, honestly, to me, the whole way they handled the Soul Stone thing or whatever is one of the biggest plot holes of Endgame that, whatever, we don't have, the movie's already 3 hours long, we don't have another hour to go into it. Because not only does that undo the bargain that is made, a soul for a soul, but on top of that, where did he put the Soul Stone back? No, seriously. Where do you put the Soul Stone back? We know where Tony, the specific spot Tony got his stone from in that safe, so he knew where it had to be returned. We knew where he got the one from the ancient one, so that was clear where that one had to be returned. You never see in Infinity War or Endgame where the Soul Stone was. You never get to see where its actual resting place is. All you know is that after the bargain is struck and a soul for a soul is done, the person blacks out, wakes up 15 miles from the mountain and the cliff, laying in a shallow lake, and just wakes up with it in their hand. Where is Captain America supposed to put that back?
Well, and even if he did, why would Black Widow come back? I mean, it was used. You know, they did what they needed to do. You don't just because you're done with it, you don't get to give it back and get the soul that you sacrificed. Doesn't come back. It's gone. It's like you bought your money, you bought your thing. If you take it back to the store, you can give it back, but they're not going to, maybe they give you store credit.
But doesn't it undo the bargain? Doesn't it undo, if you get it back there?
I don't think so, because it's up to you. You're taking it back. It's if you get this Soul Stone, you need to use it for something. Just because you give it back doesn't mean that. So
no returns, no refunds. Is what you're saying.
I think you break it, you buy it.
No, you break it, you buy it. Let's see here. What are we at? We're at Lincoln Johnson, who writes, so excited for Batman casting. Looks like Matt Reeves is taking a page out of Nolan's Batman playbook. Yeah, because look, today we can go, wow, Christian Bale. You didn't know who Christian Bale's name was when they cast him as Batman. Now, some people's like, wait a minute.
Come on, bro, American Psycho.
Was he that guy? Wasn't he the guy in Newsies? Nobody was saying
Empire of the Sun.
But he was not a household name by any stretch of the imagination to anyone. And what he did was he saw somebody who knew he had talent, went out and got him. So, I mean, yeah, it does kind of look a little bit like that. I mean, then again, he also cast Gary Oldman and he cast Michael Caine. So it's not exactly
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson.
The Neesons.
It's not exactly the same playbook. It is a different playbook.
Katie Holmes.
That's you know what? It's not even a little bit like it. It's a completely different situation. You're right, because there was only one actor that was kind of in that vein.
Well, Michael Caine. That was a good call.
Well, no, of course, and Gary, they were all good calls. Maybe not the Katie Holmes. That might not have been the best call. But everybody else was a super good call. Okay, let's see here. Max Newmark writes, do you think they'll introduce Stature in Ant-Man 3? I think somebody else asked this the other day. In Ant-Man 3, also will they intro the rest of Young Avengers and other films, plus they could use Hulk in that film? I don't think so. Now, could they? Could they? Absolutely. I see nothing that disqualifies the notion that they could go in that direction and that they could do that. Now, that being said, I also have seen nothing that would indicate that they would go in that direction.
Right.
Possibility? Absolutely, but I don't see it being a likely scenario. What do you think, Rob?
No, I mean, they could do anything. I just think that one of the things about the Ant-Man movies is of all the MCU, they've been sort of the most removed from the rest of the universe. They've really, aside from, of course, we did see Michael Douglas, the Triskelion, at the beginning of Ant-Man 1. But I think one of the charms of those movies is they've kind of existed unto themselves, and that's why they're good. And we just talked about earlier on the show, how maybe they're going to use Ant-Man 3 to really tie in for the first time in the Ant-Man universe, as far as the individual films go, into the MCU because of, look, Ant-Man probably was the MVP of Endgame, figuring out, oh, I know how we can save the world, showing up at the Avengers headquarters. So Ant-Man's like Doctor Strange, who was totally legitimized by Infinity War and Endgame. I think Ant-Man was the big deal in Endgame, really. Because if there was no Ant-Man, there would be the decimation would never have been fixed.
If it wasn't for that ant, or that rat, stepping on the right button, destiny would have been different. Okay, Miguel Zian writes, wasn't there a rumor, never listen to rumors, wasn't there a rumor about John David Washington being in talks about being in the Batman? No, he was never in talks. Wouldn't it be great if he's playing Two-Face? Well, look, to me, X-actor playing X role, as long as you get a great actor. But John David Washington has evolved into a really, really good actor. I'm not going to say he's one of the greats today, not yet. But he was great in Black Klansman. I really liked him in Ballers, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it would feel a little gimmicky to me to put John David Washington in it, because we have John David Washington and Robert Pattinson in a movie together in a Christopher Nolan movie, no less, the Batman director, in a Christopher Nolan movie already in Tenet coming out. So to me, it would feel a little gimmicky for Matt Reeves to go out and get, because he's already got one actor who's in the upcoming former Batman director's movie, to go out and get two of them and put them. I don't know. I don't think that would happen. But again, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
So if they announced it, I would be thrilled with it. I think at that point, Andy Serkis is no longer the least talented guy on the list, because I actually think Andy Serkis is a little bit better than John David Washington right now. But John David Washington has more upside. I mean, in 2 or 3 years, he could be one of the best on that list. But I just don't think he's there yet. We need to see a little more. Let's see him in Tenet. Let's see. I'm excited to see what he does in Tenet.
Man, I am excited to see that movie.
Oh, it looks fantastic. I mean, look, it's Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, I know.
He has not let us down yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on everything until he proves us otherwise. And I didn't love Interstellar.
I didn't either.
But it was still decent.
Yeah.
His worst movie is decent.
Right.
What other directors can you say that about? Anyway, and a friendly quesadilla writes, Rob, don't stop believing John. No.
Like Rorschach.
Yeah.
Save
whisper.
Us. No.
All right. Where are we at here? Suthius writes, you think new Batman will start
anew.
You think new Batman will start a new cinematic universe? Maybe. Yeah, probably more a franchise than a cinematic universe.
I think it's going to be its own thing. I really do. Like the Nolan Batman movies, we've already seen a trilogy. I think he's going to make a trilogy that it's its own thing.
All right, next up, L. Where are we at here? LLG writes, my guess, Ant-Man 3 introduces Marvel's microverse. Wouldn't that just be another paint job on the quantum realm, though, in kind of a way?
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess no, but it's not a bad theory. It's not a bad theory. I don't think they will, but it's not a bad theory. Michael Toon writes, Kay, I'll donate $50 to a charity in your name when I can. Oh, I remember that. In a previous show, Michael Altoon wrote in and said, I'll make you a wager about some movie if I like it so much. And I said, listen, I can't ever attach, even if it's your charity, some sort of personal stakes in whether I say I like a movie or not, because that compromises you. Like, so I just couldn't, even though it was for charity, I couldn't do it. But hey, man, if you want to go ahead and donate $50 to a charity and be generous enough to put, that's awesome. I would appreciate that very, very much. And I'm sure the charity that you end up giving it to would as well. So thank you for that, Michael. Corbin C writes, Joker sequel with Flashpoint Thomas Wayne Batman. Here's the problem. And I know you're joking, but still, here's a problem with that whole thing. That Joker movie does not have room in it for any meta, super anything in it. That movie is predicated on a gritty, very tangible, and very real world. That's what it's all predicated on. The world in which Joker takes place does not have magical aliens that shoot lasers from their eyes flying around the skies of the city line, and doesn't have Amazonian princess immortal warriors spinning golden lassos while flying around in invisible jets. That world falls apart the moment you start to bring any of that in. So,
unless, of course, they cross over with James Wan's Aquaman, in which case I'm all in. Because I think, the Joker needs to go find his smile. And where else but Atlantis?
Under the sea. That's what Sebastian would sing. Under the sea.
Maybe he'll join the Octopus's band.
Anyway, you know what I thought about that. All right. What's next up here? James Rye writes, love all the Batman castings. Me too, buddy. Absolutely. It may be too early to say, but could the Batman have the best cast of 2021? Could it also be one of the best ensemble casts talent-wise in a decade? Love you guys. No. But it's great. But listen, I don't even think, for instance, I don't even think it would be the best cast this month. Not when you got Knives Out coming out. Because
Dune.
Dune is great. Knives Out looks stupid. That thing is just iconic.
No, you have to say stupid good.
Stupid good.
Because people are going to say that you just... Yeah. John Campea just said Knives Out was stupid.
Iconic cast member after iconic cast member. I mean, you start with Christopher Plummer. Okay, there you go. Then you got Jamie Lee Curtis. Then you've got, who should have won an Academy Award last year, and Toni Collette. And then you got, by the way, Don Johnson. And then you've got this person. Then you got that person. Then Michael Shannon. And you got Chris Evans. And you got... Yeah, but I'll tell you what, though. This Batman cast is shaping up to be awesome. It is awesome. I don't think I'd put it at the top of the decade list or anything like that, though. But it is looking really, really good. Okay. Michael Bradley writes, without spoilers, Batwoman is a nice car with a great engine and paint job that sits in park and idles the whole time. You know what? I think I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Because, now that I just even think about the first episode, that's not a bad description of the first episode. Felt like it's got some promise, but I don't know where it's going to go. I like the way you painted that picture, Michael. All right, and the final question today, and we'll wrap up this issue of the Weekly Hero. Suthius writes, over under 70%. We'll see Ghost and Goliath again in Ant-Man. I can't remember who's Ghost and Goliath.
The Ghost is the character, the female character that was locked. She was locked out of phase that Larry Fishman was trying to help.
Oh, right. Yes.
I think we will.
In Ant-Man, you know what? You know why I was partially confused? Because it says Ant-Man. I just saw the letter in my, because we were just talking about Aquaman. I instantly went Aquaman. It's like, who's Ghost and Goliath?
And Goliath,
in the Aquaman universe. I'm like, who the hell is that? Okay. Ooh, you know what? I was about to just automatically say over, but 70's a high number.
Yeah, it is a high number.
So I think it's likely, as in, I would say over 50%. It's better than a coin toss.
Yeah.
But I can't go quite as high as 70, so I'll take the under on 70. What about you, Rob?
Now that you point that out, I think yes. Everybody likes Goliath, but Ghost, I don't know.
I liked the Ghost character. Actually,
I do too.
Especially by the end, and they fleshed out what her story was.
Loved it.
And
so again, she's part of that family now.
Yeah. And by the way, how did she survive? Because they went into the quantum realm partly. At the end of Ant-Man 2, they went into the quantum realm to get the stuff they were going to need to fuel her cure, to fuel her, it wasn't a cure, but to fuel her treatment.
Yeah.
So did she just up and die because they all snapped out and he was trapped in the quantum realm?
Was she decimated? Was she part of the decimation?
Yeah, maybe she got snapped as well. I don't know.
And if she did, when she was snapped back, because it's a reality stone, maybe she was put back the way she needed to be before she was suffering from her
I don't know. I don't think that's the way it worked. I don't think that's the way it worked. But anyway. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment, this week's installment of The Weekly Hero. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and being a part of the show. Of course, I want to thank Robert Meyer Burnett and all of you guys who sent in questions, not just because you gave us great, fun things to talk about, but by sending in those questions, you also supported the channel along the way, and you make the show possible, so thank you for that. So, hey, listen. Publisher Robert Meyer Burnett, where can people follow you online in your various exploits?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, the show about something.
And of course, you guys can just follow me on all the social medias, simply at John Campea. That will do it for us for now, guys. Don't forget to join us again for another episode of the John Campea Show tomorrow morning. Already working on some stories that we're covering then. That will do it for now, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.